Alright, we are recording. Continuing in Utopia. Of their traffic. It actually involves more than that, so I kind of wonder if this is a different use of the word traffic. But in any case, among the things it tells us is that, here, as the cities are composed of families, so their families are made up of those that are nearly related to one another. Technically, this is false. It's disproven later in the paragraph, but still close enough. So that does mean, because I brought that up before, this is not just family being used to describe some sort of generic cohort. No, they are in fact supposed to be related. But since I already kind of mentioned it, I'm trying to think of the best way to put it. It's population distribution, not population control necessarily. Lest any city should become either too great or by an accident be dispeopled, provision is made that none of their cities may contain above 6,000 families, besides those of the country around it. No family can have less than 10 and more than 16 persons in it. This is multi-generational, by the way, so just do to acknowledge that. This doesn't, however, count the children underage, but there can be no determined number for the children underage. This rule is easily observed by removing some of the children of a more fruitful couple to any other family that does not abound so much in them. Hey, you got a lot of kids there. We're gonna take them away and put them over there. No, you're not. That's also horrible because when you think about it, Utopia, it is a slave society. It is. No one should want to live in Utopia. It is a horrible place. But it is just there are real people today and back then that don't want large families. So say, no, we just have one or two, that's fine. Well, hey, down the street, different family has 6 kids. That's too many, so we're giving you 2 more. We don't want more. We're happy with it. No, you're taking them. By the same rule, they supply cities that do not increase so fast from others that breed faster. So it's say, oh, our city is, could use some more people. Fine, we'll just take some from over there. Technically, the rule is easily observed by moving some of the children of a more fruitful couple to any other family. So it is suggesting there that we're talking about moving children around. I'm not sure, but at least within the same city. I'm not sure if they mean that also for moving from one city to another. I guess in theory you might still be doing the children, but it would seem more reasonable you're moving the parents as well in a situation like that. Especially with this next thing. If there was an increase over the whole island, then they draw out a number of their citizens. Well, I guess, yeah, so in this case it's just their citizens, so they're taking a number. Out of the several towns and send them over to the neighboring continent, where they establish a colony and, look, I don't intrinsically... I am not dumb enough to think there's a problem with colonization on its own, okay? The exact methods of it can be a problem. Utopia is evil. Get to that. But yeah, it's it is a natural thing that is going to happen. You can do it better, you can do it worse. And also at some point, I do have a book over there talking about colonization that'll be fun to get through, but I'm reading something else at the moment. Something else for nonfiction. Anyway. So this is just go over to the continent, find yourself some basically unworked land, and go ahead and take it. And start forming your own town. If there's, natives around there, it's if they're conducive to joining your laws, then allow them to join you. Otherwise, kill them. No, seriously, it is just go to war with them. Yeah. But if the natives refuse to conform themselves to the colonists' laws, they drive them out of those bounds which they mark out for themselves and use force if they resist. They counted to a very just cause of war for a nation to hinder others from possessing a part of that soil of which they make no use, but which is suffered to lie idle and uncultivated. Yeah, it's even well, if you're not using them, we can just take it. It's that's actually not how that works. I mean, granted, the notion of a national park, reservations like that, is actually a fairly modern concept. I could check, but I want to say that no, it is actually the American national parks with Teddy Roosevelt. I do want to say that is actually the thing. Um, and it's also important. There's a reason why it makes sense it would be America that did that, because there's a huge psychological thing going on with Europeans coming to America, because we were a land of plenty, well, still are a land of plenty. In Europe, they basically ran through a lot of their resources because that's what was there. But they come to America, and there was plenty of wood, there was plenty of animals, plenty of all that, which is also part of the reason why, for a while, there was greater concern of, well, after that, concern of, like, just eradicating species. And, over harvesting animals and plant life, because the idea of preservation wasn't really a thing, because that's not out of Europe. That is more so an American concept. But it was because we had so many. It was just so weird. I mean, it's like, obviously we were just going to kill everything. That's what we did back then. Because it was like, yeah, everything in Europe is like, oh, I go out and maybe I get, a couple deer. I'm just making up numbers, but maybe I get 2 deer when I go out hunting. In America, you do that. It's like, I brought home 2 dozen. But it's like, well, why wouldn't you just do that? The mindset had to change. But still, they're like, yeah, no, hey, you're not using this. We can just take it then. That's not how that works. It's not how it works today. Back then, I mean, to some degree, but it still is they're just invading somebody else's land, potentially, and being like, yeah, this is ours now. It's like, no. And we're setting up our own laws. Hell no. And you gotta love how it's like, oh, well, we're superior, so if you join with us, then we're cool. But if you've got a problem, then we're gonna get rid of you. It's like, you're invading. What? I mean, this isn't even a, like, how it's written here is not even like they're cognizant that they're the foreigners. Not even cognizant of, like, no, they're the ones that would be the guests. And that they're others. No, this is a, like, I didn't read all of it. By the law of nature, a right to such a waste portion of the earth is necessary for his subsistence, that every man has this right. That's like, that's not what we're talking about here. This isn't you're alone, you need to do something, so you started making use of the land, because if you didn't, you were going to die. This is you've specifically been sent to a location to establish a colony, and are just like, yeah, we're just going to start doing this. That's very different. I need to come back. Okay, so we have this. This is up towards the beginning, but I skipped down because I wanted to talk about the how they manage population. And it's also, if there's ever like a plague or something in Utopia, it does describe this happening twice, so that the populations drop in the cities and they can't just shuffle around. Then they do recall people from the colonies, which is actually funny how they put it here. Hang on. There. It would be like, hey, want to come back to the island? Yes, we'll come immediately. It's like, there's like no concept here of people wanting to stay with their families, like mothers children staying with parents, families wanting to stay near their family or just in their home. It's like, nope, up and move you. Or hey, guess what? You've now taken this land. Let's say that, the colony was achieved peacefully. And it's like, you are building this, though. You have built this. This is not just the house of your fathers. This is your house. Hey, we need you back. Yes, I'll come right away. It's like, no. This is... I'm sorry, I'd be like, you sent me out... Well, or I accepted being sent out here to achieve this. I'm not giving that up. It's like, this is mine. Figure it out for yourself. But we also have this. Their women, when they grow up, are married out, but all the males, both children and grandchildren, live still in the same house, in great obedience to their common parent. So basically, it's just saying that the home follows the male line, so the women, they're just sent out to the other families. I don't think that it doesn't really get into marriage, at least not on this one, and on this chapter, concerning, like, if it is arranged marriages, though honestly, with how this all goes, I don't remember, but I would not be surprised if, yeah, that's exactly what Utopia does. It's just all arranged marriages. I can absolutely believe that. And I could even believe it's not even marriage. I could believe that it might be you're just assigned it is a deeply degrading society. But yeah, so they just send out. Now it also does also describe there. It only says grandparent, parent, child, so 3 generations. I'm uncertain if it doesn't describe how new families are made. Yes, it does say that there's only so many families, but it doesn't say when that division occurs, because grandfather dies. Okay, it goes to the next eldest. So his next eldest male. That should be the eldest son. Shouldn't be a brother, but let's just say it is the eldest son. If it's the eldest brother, then that's a problem, because now say, hey, I'm in a home that I'm not, I have no relation there. That's not my grandfather. That's an uncle. But it still is. If it goes to the eldest son, it still might be that's my uncle. This isn't my family home in that it's a single male line. So is that I have to go out and start a new family home? Is it my dad has to do that? I mean, there's no discussion of this. And there's kind of a problem, because you would naturally be having that happen. So yeah, it just, like other fiction stories, Utopia lacks. I know I motion over there because that's where the stack of books are. There is no sense of consequences to this. That there is no. Okay, how does this actually work? How is this possible? The answer is it isn't possible. Yeah. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else here. Let me look at my notes as well. I know it's next, Okay. I think I did cover all of that. Scribes at the center of town is where you find the market. And it's literally just, things are laid out. Fathers go with whoever they need to help haul things back. And just, they go and take whatever they want. Because there's no property, so you can't just take it all. Boy, there are contradictions coming up. Yeah, there's no reason for giving a denial to any person, since there is such plenty of everything among them. And there is no danger of a man's asking for more than he needs. They have no inducements to do this, since they are sure they shall always be supplied. So it's basically this psychological theory that is wrong. Maybe true for some people, but in general wrong. That people only take more than they need for fear of not having it. Well, for one thing, that's a reasonable fear to have. It's like you should have a decent supply of food if you can afford it. And there's no price here, so obviously they can't afford it. Let's say it's just, a week's worth of food, which isn't really that much, but if need be, it's enough. So I'm just thinking, I guess it would be more so water, like if you lose power, such that you can't trust the pumping station, so water in the pipes is sitting, you can't use that. You want a supply of water at home. It can also be food, in case something causes you to lose access to grocery stores and such, but still, it's like having a supply of food. That's a good thing to do. Oversupply, you can argue that, but that's kind of my point here. He said, out of fear of doing this. It's like, no, it's actually very reasonable. You can overtake, but that's not being talked about here. So it is just I guess they're always living on the edge of starvation. But there are some people that will just take because it's there. This is observed. I mean, it's like, think about in various grocery stores, I don't know how much they do it anymore, but the free samples. There are definitely people that just go and take everything they can there. It's not because they need it. They just want it, and that's enough for them. So it is this Utopia keeps assuming that these people are of perfect morals, and also of perfect psychology by Utopia's definition. And that's not true. It's one of those things about communism that it's perfect on paper, but it can never be applied in reality because reality itself is not perfect. Kind of that thing. And that's not to say that real communism and such hasn't been tried. Oh no, it's been tried many times. It just can never work. Also, it is deeply degrading, destroys the human, basically, the human soul, because, like, hey, you can't be creative, you can't be focused on, like, hey, I want to do this thing. It's like, no, that's not better for the state. We can't do that. Oh yeah, there's this. Oh god. Okay, so remember earlier, it was just in the previous part, they're talking about the trades, and how no trade is held in lower esteem than the other, that they're all of such importance. Except for butchering. No. No utopian does that. That's for the slaves to do. Because they, the utopians, think that pity and good nature, which are among the best of those affections that are born with us, are much impaired by the butchering of animals. Nor do they suffer anything that is foul or unclean to be brought within their towns, lest the air should be infected by ill smells, which might prejudice their health. Yeah, there is no trade that is deemed lower, except for this. No. That's for slaves to do only, and it's done outside as well, so it can't even be brought in. Seriously? I'm sorry. It's just, I don't know if I would ever be a competent butcher, but to me, it's like I'd have no problem like living next door to one, living above one. It's a good and necessary part of society. And there's also an element of this whole, because it's like pity and good nature. It's like the animals are bred for food. Like, this is their purpose. It's therefore right to slaughter them for the purpose of food. That's completely appropriate. You want to make an argument about hunting? Okay, maybe, except you kind of need to do that before you can domesticate animals. But there's also, even with that, it still is there's a certain competition there, and it's the spoils of victory, you might say. Now I actually am kind of curious, because I don't know any hunters, but I am now curious. How often do hunters go out and return with nothing? And not necessarily they didn't find anything, but they found something, but for whatever reason they weren't able to successfully kill it. Because I could believe that happens plenty of times. You found the deer. I'm just going to keep with deer. But they weren't able to line up a good shot on it. Or when they do, the bullet just went a little bit astray. Because bullets are not that accurate, okay? They're really not. I mean, you can have something, but you're not going out there with a full-on sniper rifle, okay? And with is it match-grade ammunition? Is that it? Whatever. The point is, it's still bullets stray. So that's normal. And maybe you do that and it accidentally strays. It doesn't strike the animal at all. Or is just a minor wound. Hopefully it would only be minor, because you don't want to leave a wounded animal out there. Okay, that is inhumane. That if you like injure it severely enough that it's incapacitated, no, it is only correct for you to go after that. There's nothing you need to do that. But yeah, how often is it that you come home because like never had a shot, but it's still just. They are demeaning a certain trade. Which I'm trying to remember. Because I had looked something. I actually looked up that butcher guilds would actually be older than this story. I think it goes back to like the 12th or 13th century. In any case, just it is a legitimate trade. And they're saying that, oh no, this is of low esteem, so we give it to the slaves to do. Which, okay, that's fair. I don't remember the kind of slaves that they got here, because there are different forms of slavery throughout history. This might be more the kind where there is the more ancient kind of slavery is actually more akin to like indentured servitude, where they will actually, like, it's just for a set period of time. Maybe not, because I'm not sure how they get. I think we may get later how they get the slaves. But still, in many cases, it is just, no, you're a slave for so many years. That's it. As part of some sort of debt, or basically, it was almost like a kind of employment. Okay, but the modern slavery that everyone is taught about, and therefore a lot of people think that's how slavery only ever is, radically different. That would be known as chattel slavery, if you look that up. Anyway. Oh yeah, then we got this. Oh boy. They have belonging to every town 4 hospitals that are built without their walls, as in outside of their walls, and are so large that they may pass for little towns. I love this. I absolutely love this. So it's like, hey, we're going to build the hospitals outside of the towns because, you don't want some contagion getting in. It's like, oh, great. So in other words, when I besiege you, you have no access to medicine. You have no access to medical care because it's outside of your walls. That's the first thing I get to take. That's a really dumb thing. You would want some of that inside. You really would. Also has this, that basically the hospitals are so well furnished and all that, there is scarce one in a whole town that if they should fall ill, would not choose rather to go thither to the hospital than lie sick at home. Oh, I mean, at home I'm with my family. At home I'm in my own bed. At home I know the surroundings. Why would I not want to stay at home? And plus, there's also evidence that you heal better at home. And that can be for multiple reasons. One is just a comfort factor. Another can be that you bring... I feel people exaggerate this point to hyperbole. That by putting all the sick people in a hospital, you're going to see diseases spread around them. It's like, yes, that is going to happen, but I do still feel like some people hyperbolize it. But it still is if you're sick with the flu, I mean, fine, you may want to quarantine in your home, but I wouldn't want to go out to that hospital. So I don't care. It's a really nice hospital, and there are people who take care of you. It's like, my home is nice, and so is my family. They'll take care of me as needed. What are you even talking about here? It's again that whole, none of these people have attachment to anything. So yeah, they'll just leave their home and go to the hospital. They'll just leave the colony and come back to the island when you want them to. They'll just give up their children to go to another city. They'll just give up their children to go to another family. They'll just do that. It's like, it is incredibly natural that we have such attachments. Then describes how when they eat, okay, so basically it was mentioned previously there are 4 divisions to every city. I trying to remember exactly how it is, but basically every block will have 30 families on it. But in the middle, so there's 15 on one side, 15 on another, is a great hall, and this is actually where the magistrate of whichever level lives. But that's where you have your meals. Well, dinner and supper at least. There's no mention of breakfast, but whatever. Everybody gathers there. However, it does say, though any that will may eat at home, yet none does it willingly, since it is both ridiculous and foolish for any to give themselves the trouble to make ready an ill dinner at home. Why it says ill dinner, I don't know. When there's much more plentiful one made ready for him so near hand. Maybe I just want that privacy. Maybe I don't like eating with a bunch of people. Maybe I just got a wife, and you know what? I just want to be at home with her. There's so many reasons why. Yeah, he'd want to stay home and eat. It could also be yeah, I know, but you know what? I want to fix the food myself. What? Yeah, because, I think I can do a better job than all of you. Because, I'm going to spice that thing right. I'm going to maybe slow cook it. You guys got to cook fast because you're trying to feed so many. I'm going to take my time on this. Come on, we know people are going to do that. In fact, in one of the, it was in the prior chapter, I didn't talk about it, but it referred to how there's really only 2 games there, both being somewhat similar to chess, and one of them was actually virtues versus vices, and sounds nice, but it's like, no, you don't understand how games are made. Okay, well, sports, but sports are a kind of game. These originate from people being bored together and being like, hey, Joe, what? I think I can throw that stick farther than you can. You really think so? Yeah? Prove it. It's like, hey, Joe, I think I can cook that food better than you can. Really? Yeah. Prove it. All right. I mean, it's like, all the uneasy and sordid services about these halls are performed by their slaves. So again, there is a craft, a trade, that is considered lesser. Granted, this stuff is not necessarily considered... I'm not sure how much you'd want to consider it a trade, especially because it is mentioned later that it is not the slaves that are serving the food. But it still is a, like the cleaning up and such, it still is like, oh, well, that's so beneath them that no, it's the slaves that do that. But the dressing and cooking their meat and the ordering their tables belong only to the women, all those of every family taking it by turns. The turns wasn't included in the highlight. There we go. So the slave has to do the butchering, because that's unclean. But the cooking, the women will do. The citizens will do. This is not consistent. Okay? It isn't. Plus, there's also, not to say that, women aren't good cooks or anything like that, but still is I think that men have that stronger primal interest and desire for fire. But the whole just... I want to build a fire. I want to do things with it. Maybe do that. Take some sticks, put it in there, and just get it warm. Just start carbonizing it, because that's a way to harden wood and such. So it's like make a good spear or arrow or something. It's like maybe I want to do that. Maybe it is I want to take this meat and just cook it there, and I want to get it just right. Okay, this is not making food. This is making a meal, and it's just I'm saying the women are going to be doing it. It's like, I'm not saying that they can't do it and can't do it well. Certainly, many women can. But let's also be real. There's plenty of men out there where it's like, no, the grill is mine. Not hers, mine. I will be buried with that, okay? You can cremate me on that and then bury me in it. There's some men. They're like, I can't think of any woman that, anytime I've seen any woman suggest that, it's like, that is not the stereotype. But Utopia, nope, apparently it would be closer to that. But it is still more so the whole, they can cook the meat. They can dress and cook the meat, but they cannot, neither them nor their husbands can be involved in the gathering of that meat. Where? Okay, I'm just trying to remember, because it is a little odd how there's like, oh yeah, there's nothing formal here, and then proceeds to lay out how there's a formal way that everything is arranged. But in any case, maybe it's over here? No, I don't think so. But basically, the magistrate is at the head of the table. To be fair, it's technically his home. He lives in this, above this hall or something, so it's, okay. If there's priests, they'll be there. And also some of the eldest of the patriarchs will be there. And then you get to the tables where it is interspersed, old and young. And it's actually kind of funny. Hang on, let me... that the gravity of the old people and the reverence that is due to them might restrain the younger from all indecent words and gestures. That basically, you're not going to swear next to Grandpa. Depending, Grandpa might be the one who taught you those words, but, Anyway, moving on from that one. Oh yeah, it does also have that the men sit towards the wall, the women towards on the other side, specifically so that if they are taken ill, they can easily get up and go to there's a nurse's quarters nearby. So it's like, I get that, but men can get sick too. As I said in one of the other videos, yes, we are a sexually dimorphic species. So I'm fine with some of this stuff being divided up. When they're talking about the trades, because, okay, there's a physical element there that, yes, men are bigger and stronger on average than women, so are more competent for certain things than they are. Just as at a physical level, at the physics, the physiology. It's like, yeah. Illness isn't really that. Illnesses may impact us differently, but people still get sick. There's also the nurses' quarters. That's where the children 5 and younger are. It's also, well, technically the new mothers would be there as well if they're still breastfeeding the children. They will continue to do that there. Yeah, I think that's all I need to really cover for that. All the children under 5 years old sit among the nurses. The rest of the younger sort of both sexes till they are fit for marriage. Either serve those that sit at table. So the slaves are just apparently like cleaning up, and like if there's a tablecloth, like laying that out, they'll do that work. But the actual servicing, the serving of the food, is by the young children. I'm just going to call them children. It's a little easier, even though technically this might still be like, 14, 15, maybe even 16 years old. It's like, so they will serve unless they are not strong enough, in which case then they just stand by them in great silence and eat what is given them. So they're shamed for potentially just not being strong. It's just so annoying and stupid to me, this idea, because... Hang on. Yeah, okay, that is highlighted here then. Because I could even see being instead of the children being so ordered to... And, oh, yeah, that's also true, because I was saying like 14, 15, 16. Because I don't know, but that, 17, 18 might be more marrying age. So 14, 15, 16... they're serving. It's like, okay, only the 5-year-olds and younger with the nurses. So 6, are they the ones that are, like, they're going to be there, but they're not necessarily old enough, strong enough to serve. So they might be there and are, they're just forced to be silent and just whatever food is given them. It's like, you know what? This is even more reason that it might be, no, I'll eat at home with my family. But why? It's like, because then I make sure my children are eating comfortably. All right? Because there's also going to be that aspect of, look, I'm the parent. I need to eat enough to survive, and that's it. As far as, like, somebody getting full, that's my kids. They should be able to eat their full before I do. Okay? That's how that should be working. But this, it seems, is the opposite, because it's just whatever is given them. It is an evil state. But there's also this that is... another reason I can think of for why I'd want to eat at home, potentially, but there's another thing here that is a problem, there's a contradiction. Both dinner and supper are begun with some lecture of morality that is read to them. It's like, oh, great. But it is so short that it is not tedious nor uneasy to them to hear. It's like, yeah, maybe I still just don't want to hear it. From hence the old men take occasion to entertain those about them with some useful and pleasant enlargements. So they continue to discuss it, just like among the people most near them. But they do not engross the whole discussion so to themselves during their meals that the younger may not put in a fair share. On the contrary, they engage them to talk, that so they may, in that free way of conversation, find out the force of everyone's spirit and observe his temper. That is contradiction. Because remember, it is a circumstantial contradiction. Let me put it like that. That's a better way to put it. Because what was stated before is that it is a rule in their government that when something is put forward, it must wait till the next day to be discussed to avoid people speaking out of temper. That it's like that they would say something, commit themselves to that, and then realize that, oh wait, with greater thought, I shouldn't have said that. I should say this. I should do this. But here it's saying, no, we encourage that. Make up your mind. Okay, I mean, are you encouraging this or not? Because it is kind of backwards if it's yeah, if you get to be a magistrate, guess what? You can't do this. It's really stupid. It really is. Because it also becomes a cultural question. Because the fact that this is encouraged at a full cultural level, okay, because this is everyone is eating like this, except for people in the town. I'll get to that. But everyone is eating like this. This is taught fully. But then it's like, oh, guess what? You enter into this position. You're not allowed to follow your cultural instincts, the things that we've been teaching you since you were 6 years old and older. Since then, nope, can't do that anymore. It's like, huh? There's also mentioned here they never sup without music, except there's never an explanation for where that music comes from. Like, is it a portion of the families they perform? I don't know. There's also who is doing that, because it wasn't brought up with the trades section. Like, does this fall under thought studies, or does this fall under a trade? Or is this just we figure that, people are just, learning in their off time to play an instrument, and then we have them perform here. It's like, why? Maybe they just do that because it's a way to pass the time, since they're not allowed to do anything else. Maybe they don't want to perform like that. Or is this something the slaves are being made to do? I don't know. It's just, yeah, they never sup without music. There's also, okay, if they are playing music, whoever the band is, when do they eat? Then gets to talking about in the country, because they don't have these great halls and they're so far apart that they don't gather for they don't have a great hall to gather in. I don't think that's really accurate. It would make sense that, well, I don't think you would have the farms in the center of the fields, such that now it's a great distance from one to the next. I don't understand them being offset, but I would think road, farm here, so they're both on the road. So you could easily gather at one house or the other. You wouldn't have everyone coming in, but still. We get this. Everyone eats at home, and no family wants any necessary sort of provision, for it is from them that provisions are sent unto those that live in the towns. So, basically, the farmers get their fill the food first. It's like, okay, that makes sense. One problem, not the meat. The slaves are doing that. That's not, it doesn't say that it's the country slaves. It says it's the slaves. And even still, it's not the farmer, it's not the people in the country, because it's not their work. It's the slaves' work. Maybe the slaves are attached to the farms. And so the meat goes there and then it goes into the city. Maybe. Maybe not. Because it can also be it's like, unlike corn, a cow walks. So you could take that cow and actually walk it. You could actually take multiple cows, walk it up towards the city, slaughter them there, outside the city, and then bring the food in. You can do that. You don't need to actually go to the farm. I mean, you got the cows from the farm, but still, this is, again, you're just leaving out these details. And as has been well established, I am very technical. It is actually kind of funny, and that's actually where the chapter ends. But it is kind of funny that I will see sometimes somebody making some joking comment that fantasy authors will stop and consider what the socioeconomic status is and how they achieve trade for every single town that exists in this fantasy world. It's like, no, I don't think so, but at the same time, I appreciate that kind of that kind of technical attention is important. It is valuable, because you may find that by thinking that through, you realize, oh, wait a minute, that means other things don't work. So, like with this, who is actually taking care of the meat supply? Is that the farmer? Is that the people that have been forced out to the farms. Because remember, you spend 2 years out there always, and you cycle back in. Is that... Oh yeah, do the slaves cycle through? Now, true, that could be explained in a different chapter. But it still is... who actually manages the meat? Because it might be that it is ranchers, free persons, citizens, that are the ranchers that are raising the cattle, then handing them over to the slaves who then slaughter. But is that slaughtering then leading them to... by the way, it's not just going to be the meat. I'll get to that. Does it then come back to the farms that then have take theirs and then send to the city? Or do the slaves send... Maybe they divide in half. Half go to the farms, half go into the cities. That is a third party now that hasn't been addressed. And it might be hey, I need to address that. And you start working that out. And then you also start realizing that even though no trade is of low esteem, becomes actually, no, there are some of low esteem because you do have a caste system here, if nothing else, to caste level slaves and citizens. But another thing that they mentioned, that the slaughtering of the animals is done by these slaves because basically the Utopians don't want to get their hands dirty, physically or metaphorically, which even then I reject the idea that is a metaphorical hands dirty if you are slaughtering, butchering animals that were raised specifically for that purpose. But still, it's like, they also mentioned that everyone basically, as their underclothes, wears leather and skins. And that this stuff lasts for 7 years then, that they then wear clothing over top. And it's that clothing over top that determines if you... is based on whether or not you are male or female, and then based on if you are married or unmarried. Well, leather work is going to be a lot more noxious, by the way, than just butchering. So that also means then that for that clothing, they're dependent on their slaves. I mean, you get away with just eating fruits and vegetables, not eating meat. But this is, no, they are dependent on part of their clothing. Both definitely the leather, which I'm assuming is this has been treated, versus the skins, which might not be treated. Where it's just, you've taken the fat off, you've taken the hair off and all that. And that's all, that might be it for the skins. But leather, where you're actually tanning it, that is one thing that I probably would never want to do myself. Because one of the traditional ways that you would do that is using... Well, you want to use fatty acids. What's a good organ for fatty acids? The brain! Yeah, so what you actually will do for tanning hides is, you butcher the animal, you got all these skins, you get a bucket, and you do first, I'm pretty sure you do try to take all the hair off and fat off first. But you do put water in the bucket, whatever that bucket is made out of. I don't know what order it goes in, the skins or not, but you take the brain, so you did extract that, put it in and just start mashing it up with your bare hands. It's like, I'm good with somebody else doing that. Yeah. But the slaves would have to be doing that. Because that is, and that's kind of disgusting. But there's also, if I remember correctly, some of the chemicals involved, at least with modern tanning, and even ancient tanning, I'm pretty sure it still is, there are chemicals involved with that. Like things besides the brains, that it is a horrible smell. Such that, the tanners would typically live well outside of town to keep the stench away. And they'd also often, I think, be near a stream or whatever, and potentially in a specific spot on the stream, again, to avoid... Well, they need access to the water, I think it also, so they can constantly wash things off. But yeah, it's... There is low esteem work. I mean, it's as simple as that. There is low esteem work. So we do have that contradiction here. Next will be of the traveling of the Utopians. Oh, and then we do get after this of their slaves and of their marriages. Cool. So we will get more information, but that's going to be a couple chapters yet. I do know one things for the slaves. I don't remember anything concerning the marriages. So we'll see how that is. I do want to quickly look at this, though. Okay. Page 67 of 133. So we're only now about halfway through. I just want to see how long is the traveling of the Utopians. So 67 to 88. Okay, yeah, that's going to take a bit. I don't think I have enough time just now for it. So that's going to have to wait until probably later today. All right. I'm just thinking, I'm enjoying this. I know nobody watches these things, no one reads whatever, right? But it still is I just hope that somebody else out there might be like me and be like, huh, you know what? I'm actually gonna read the book Utopia and learn more about this paradise that we've used that word for, and then realize, oh my god, it's horrible. Hope I'm not alone in that. Anyway, see you next time.